When Pax and the other two arrived at the playground, they saw William surrounded by a group of people sitting on the ground. The leader, Damien, with his head held high, pointed at him and cursed loudly. "How dare you oppose me? You, a lackey, are not even worthy." Upon hearing this, Nicholas rushed forward directly. "Try insulting my brother one more time." Pax and Ian followed closely behind. William, sitting on the ground, saw the three approaching. He cried with a face full of grievances. "Damien is too bullying. We cleaned our area completely. They even swept their trash over to our side. I reasoned with them, but they came up and started beating me up without saying a word." Upon hearing this, Nicholas immediately pointed at Damien's nose. "Damien, how dare you bully my brother?" But before Nicholas could finish his sentence, Damien coldly chuckled and pushed his hand away. "So you are Nicholas, I've heard of you. Although your family is wealthy, don't act arrogantly in front of me. I will beat you up. You have nowhere to reason with me." Seeing Damien acting so arrogantly, Nicholas is about to rush up and beat him up. At this moment, Pax held him back. He pulled him behind himself and said to Damien, with a cold look in his eyes, "You dare touch my brother. I guarantee that you will be crippled today." Damien was scared by the cold momentum coming from Pax. He involuntarily took a step back. When he came to his senses, he quickly called his brothers to surround Pax and the others. "The incident will be on me." Just as the tension between both sides was about to escalate, a teacher suddenly appeared behind everyone. "What are you guys doing? Are you trying to fight?" Damien saw that it was the head teacher who knew his own father. If he gets reported, he will definitely get a good beating. Thinking of this, Damien ran as fast as he could. But he still didn't forget to threaten head teacher William. "If you ask about the injuries on your face, say you fell by yourself. Otherwise, I will hit you every time I see you." Upon hearing this, Nicholas couldn't help but want to rush up and start a fight. But he was stopped by Pax. "Keep calm, the teacher is coming. Getting into a fight in public will be noted as a serious offense." Upon hearing this, Nicholas was very resentful and said indignantly, "Then William got beaten up for nothing." Pax did not respond but just smirked. "Rest assured, this is not over yet. I believe Damien will soon come out to confront us and fight." Time flies, and it's already Friday in the blink of an eye. It's Pax and Nicholas's turn to clean the classroom today. At this moment, William ran in panting. "I heard Damien is planning to block us on the road with his people. What should we do?" Nicholas became even more excited after hearing this. "What else can we do? Let's fight him. I can't wait any longer." William, however, hesitated and said, "I heard that Damien brought over 100 people." Nicholas was dumbfounded upon hearing this. So many people? Where did so many people come from? How many people do we have on our side? William, however, pointed helplessly behind him. "It's just the 4 of us. Other people heard about fighting with Damien and were scared away." Upon hearing this, Pax looked resolutely at the 3 people. "It seems that there is no choice but to brace ourselves and go for it." Sure enough, just as they walked out of the school gate, Pax and the others were surrounded in a corner by Damien and his group. "Now it's my turn to deal with you, right?" Pax, however, remained expressionless at these words. He walked up to Damien. "Damien, if you have the ability, come out for a one-on-one duel." Upon hearing this, Damien suddenly laughed. "What a joke. I have so many brothers behind me, and you want me to have a one-on-one duel with you? Do you think I'm stupid?" Seeing Damien's disagreement, Pax walked straight up to him. He showed a fierce look on his face and said coldly, "I'll take you all on one by one. We need to find a spacious place." Damien couldn't help but be intimidated by Pax's momentum and took a few steps back in fear. He didn't expect this kid to be so arrogant to challenge all of them to a fight. He clenched his fists in anger and smashed towards Pax. "You're looking for death." Pax simply leaned his body slightly to the side, easily dodging the punch. This caused Damien to instantly lose his balance. He almost fell to the ground. But before he could react, Pax promptly lifted his foot. He kicked him hard on his buttocks. Damien fell flat on his face immediately. Pax stepped on his back, looking disdainful. "You dare to bring someone to confront me? Someone like you asking for trouble?" After hearing Pax mocking himself like that, Damien angrily shouted to his henchmen around him, "Are you all idiots? Come help me now!" As soon as his words fell, the group of little hooligans rushed forward. But Pax didn't even consider them. He just gave them a cold glare. Then he took out a chilling silver needle. He shuttled through the hooligan group at lightning speed. When the figure came to a halt, all of the hooligans fell to the ground, emitting cries of pain. "My hand is broken. I can't feel my legs. Half of my body can't move." Pax stared coldly at everyone. Who else wants to go up now? And at this time, Damien was frightened by Pax's methods. He was so terrified that he became stuttering and said, "You are a demon. What secret art did you use to cripple everyone?" But Pax did not answer him. He just advanced towards him step by step, with a fierce look on his face. Damien was so scared that he trembled and crouched on the ground, saying, "Don't come closer." Seeing that Pax did not stop, he quickly knelt down and begged for mercy. "Don't kill me. I don't want to be disabled. In the future, you can be the boss. Can I just avoid you?" Nicholas on the side was afraid that there would be a loss of life. He quickly stepped forward and hugged the furious Pax to stop him. "It's not worth going to jail for this kind of rubbish." Pax only came to his senses after hearing this. He looked down at Damien and asked, "How did you get injured? You should know how to respond." Damien was afraid that Pax would hit him again. He quickly and fearfully replied, I know. We fell by ourselves. Also, I will compensate William for medical expenses." After saying that, he reached into his pocket. "I don't have that much money with me now. I'll use this jade to pay the bill first. The one others gave to my dad should be worth tens of thousands." Pax was suddenly shocked at the sight. This did not wait for Pax to finish speaking. Nicholas immediately kicked the jade out of Damien's hand, because he recognized it as the same one as his father's. "Who wants your ominous broken thing used to seal the 9 apertures of the dead? Stay away from us." Damien thought that Pax and the others would not let him go, and kept begging in fear. "What do you want then? I'll do anything as long as I can." Upon hearing this, Pax's gaze turned cold. "I don't care about the money. You go talk to William yourself." "Your brothers are not crippled. They were just temporarily disabled by my silver needle acupuncture. They will recover after half an hour." After saying that, Pax left with Nicholas without looking back, leaving Damien behind thanking profusely with continuous kowtows. Not long after they left, Nicholas leaned in close. Pax said hesitantly in his ear, "I just saw Damien wearing the 9 apertures jade. How come he's unharmed?" Pax was also puzzled after hearing that it was indeed the 9 apertures jade, but why he's unharmed, I really don't know. The two were talking, and Nicholas started to worry about his dad. He took out his phone and called to inquire about his current situation. But on the other end of the phone came some bad news. "What? You're not doing well," he said. At nightfall, in the blink of an eye, Nicholas brought his father to Deaf Granny's house. Deaf Granny just glanced at Gabriel and exclaimed, "Oh no, your grim appearance is like a dark cloud looming over the city. You could kick the bucket at any time." Gabriel's eyes welled up with tears upon hearing this. "I follow your instructions every day. I place the divine axe you gave me at home and offer incense to it 3 times a day with deep respect. How could things still turn out this way?" Upon hearing this, Deaf Granny couldn't help but furrow her brows and let out a sigh. "What you have in that mind is something from 1,000 years ago. It's normal for the divine axe to be uncontrollable." Before Deaf Granny could finish her sentence, Gabriel immediately knelt down on both knees with a thud. He hugged Deaf Granny's thighs and cried out, "Please, you must save me. Nicholas cannot be without me, his father." Seeing this, Nicholas on the side also quickly begged Deaf Granny, "Granny, please help my dad. I don't want to lose him." Hearing this, Deaf Granny's face turned serious. "It's necessary. Go and bring your wife over here. From today onwards, you will stay with me. I must help you through this disaster," she said firmly. The next morning, just as dawn was breaking, Gabriel hurriedly brought his wife to Deaf Granny's house. After the family got out of the car, Deaf Granny pointed to a side room and said, "This is the room dedicated to the immortal. You two will be staying here next." Upon hearing this, Gabriel nodded quickly. "We will follow your instructions," and entered the house. Deaf Granny first lit an incense for the immortal at the entrance of the hall. "The lives of all the immortals are critical. Please be merciful and let them stay here for a few days. Later, I will make sure that Gabriel, this kid, will set up longevity tablets for all the immortals in the temple to show virtuous deeds." Gabriel on the side also hurriedly added, saying, "I also want to cast golden statues for all the immortals." However, it seemed that the immortals also knew that the things in the ancient tomb were not easy to deal with. After a long time, there was still no response from the immortals. Seeing this scene, Gabriel couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Isn't it that the immortals disagree? Deaf Granny couldn't help but sigh lightly after hearing this. It seems that we can only think of another way. At this time, Pax, who was standing on the side, walked forward. He lit 3 incense sticks. "Everyone, Nicholas and I are as close as brothers. His matters are my matters. Please, everyone, help us as much as possible." With these words, he finished speaking. The originally dim spirit tablet suddenly lit up. Roman's voice was the first to be heard. Pax politely invited them to move in. The hemp-clad granny also chimed in, asking Nicholas to bring more of that stuff from last time. Upon hearing this, Nicholas couldn't help but exclaim, "Granny, that's snacks." "Yes, that's it. With these things, even if they don't take care of me, I will still protect all of you." When hemp-clad Granny agreed, the family hurriedly knelt down to express their gratitude. "Thank you, Immortal. Thank you, Granny." At this moment, Pax quietly approached Deaf Granny and softly told her about what had happened at school. "Granny, I saw the 9 apertures jade again yesterday." Deaf Granny was stunned when she heard this. "Why didn't you bring it back? That thing is very sinister and can be fatal." Pax couldn't help but sneer. "That Damien is not a good person. Besides, I saw him carrying that piece of jade and nothing happened to him." Upon hearing that, Deaf Granny sighed at the child's temper. "I hope nothing really happens." At the same time, Damien is discussing with his buddies on how to retaliate against Pax and his group. On the other hand, his companions are advising him to give up and just forget about it. That kid Pax is too powerful. Let's not provoke him. Clearly, they are afraid of experiencing the sensation of losing control over their actions. Upon hearing this, Damien immediately cursed angrily. "A bunch of useless people. I won't need you next time. I will directly call people from the city. They are all ruthless killers. I refuse to believe that they can't handle a small fry like Pax." After saying that, Damien slowly left with the support of his henchmen. Little did they know that their conversation was overheard by several small animals following behind. They glared ominously at the backs of the departing crowd. "Everyone, let's attack together." Immediately, they surged forward and rushed towards the few people. Daring to cause trouble for Pax means you're seeking death. Before Damien and his group of lackeys could react, they were instantly overwhelmed by the small animals. All that could be heard was a wave of miserable screams. "Help, my face was pricked by a hedgehog. A rat is biting me as it crawls into my pants. Mr. Fox, please don't scratch my face. This snake is so big, it can't be venomous, right?" Damien is treated with special care. Suddenly, a roar of a beast came from afar. The small animal seemed to have received an order and hurriedly retreated. Hooligan Damien, who was left behind with a bewildered and painful face, was covered in thorns and lying on the ground. Angry, he cursed at the sky, demanding to know what exactly was going on. As soon as the words fell, a younger brother on the side seemed to remember something. I heard that Pax's granny is the most powerful spirit medium disciple. Could these animals be here to seek revenge on him? Upon hearing this, Damien was instantly terrified. Is it true? Then he could take our lives at any moment. The younger brother, also frightened, suggested, shouldn't we go apologize to Pax? What if next time he commands those animals to bite us down there? Damien was chilled to the core the moment he heard it. The 9 apertures jade in his hand slipped and fell to the ground. Shut up! Don't say such scary things, he said, reaching down to pick up the 9 apertures jade on the ground. But he was suddenly pricked by a hedgehog's quill left behind, causing him to curse in pain. It's all your fault for scaring me for no reason. You even pierced my fingers. Upon hearing this, the younger brother quickly apologized. I'm sorry. But just as Damien's bleeding finger touched the 9 apertures jade, it seemed like the 9 apertures jade was absorbing his blood. Damien couldn't help but shiver in doubt. Why did it suddenly feel so cold? But he didn't pay too much attention to it, thinking it might be due to recent indulgence. He then wrapped his arm around the little girl's waist and turned to leave. Let's go home first. We can talk about apologizing to Pax later. At the same time, at the moment when 9 apertures jade was stained with blood, the location of the ancient tomb in the mine suddenly started to shake. A deafening roar echoed through the cave. Soon after, waves of eerie evil chi spread out. Seeing this, the Taoist was immediately shocked and turned pale. It's bad, the worship of evil inside is about to awaken. We must quickly prepare more talismans to suppress the ancient tomb. Otherwise, it will be too late. Upon hearing the Taoist's words, Professor Martin was puzzled. What happened to Isaiah? What exactly inside makes you so fearful? Hearing this, the Taoist sighed involuntarily. Forget it, after observing these few days, I suspect that the tomb houses a member of the Han dynasty, one of the 3 brothers. Before the Taoist could finish speaking, Martin suddenly exclaimed, What? Are you saying that? Yes, that's right, it's them. According to legend, during the Han dynasty, many heroes emerged and wars were frequent. There was a scholar named Joseph. When he went up the mountain to gather herbs, he happened to meet a Taoist who saw that he was kind-hearted and helped the weak and oppressed. He then imparted all his lifelong learning to him and instructed him that whoever mastered this skill could dominate the world, but it required having the righteous energy to save the people. If one's intentions were impure, they would face divine punishment and die without a burial place. However, Joseph did not take this advice to heart. He just happily accepted the secret manuscript. He thanked the immortal without knowing the immortal's name. I am the Southern Peak Immortal. And in the Taiping medicine technique that he bestowed upon Joseph, there are 3 secret techniques. They are treat diseases by talisman summoning yellow turban warriors and crafting battle corpses. Initially, Joseph could still remember his original aspiration of treating illnesses and saving people. However, driven by power, his ambition has been growing day by day. He led 2 others to rebel and raise an army. They named themselves the Yellow Turban Army. Joseph declared himself the God General and made outrageous statements. The blue sky is dead, and the yellow sky will rise. In the year of Jiazi, all will be well in the world. But in just a few short months, he was annihilated, meeting a tragically bleak end. After listening to the explanation from the Taoist, Professor Martin had a look of confusion on his face. This ancient tomb belongs to the Han dynasty. Does the worship of evil inside refer to Joseph? Upon hearing this, the Taoist shook his head. It's still unclear which one it is. In any case, before I figure out a way to deal with the ghost inside, we must not dig further. Rest assured, I will definitely give orders to proceed accordingly. In the blink of an eye, it was late at night. All the immortals gathered at Deaf Granny's house, discussing how to deal with the ghost in the ancient tomb. At this moment, Roman suddenly noticed the changes in Andrew. His 3 souls were stable. You are truly blessed with good fortune. Upon hearing this, Andrew just gave a kind smile. This is thanks to Pax imparting Taoist techniques from the inner chapters of the Bio Puzi to me. But before Andrew could finish his words, the hemp-clad granny, who was originally seated, suddenly stood up abruptly. What? It turned out to be one of the four masters, Grayson masters the inner chapters of the Bio-Pussy. You really passed it on to Andrew. Upon hearing this, Pax looked puzzled. Yeah, what's wrong? Granny, if you and Roman are interested, I can teach you as well. At this remark, hemp-clad Granny was momentarily stunned. You are so straightforward. Such a masterful technique cannot be easily taught to others. Even for us, it cannot be forced. Otherwise, it will invite great consequences and calamities. Upon hearing this, Pax finally understood. Hemp-clad Granny cares for him, warming his heart unintentionally. Andrew is not just anyone. He mobilized his whole family to help me. In contrast, I only taught him some Taoist techniques, which doesn't really amount to much. Andrew also understood the meaning behind hemp-clad Granny's words. Immediately, he knelt down with a thud, clasping his hands in a fist salute. Granny, please rest assured, I have already made a solemn vow. I will protect Pax well in this lifetime, as long as instructed by Pax. I am willing to go through fire and water without hesitation. On the side, Roman also chimed in. Granny, don't worry too much. Everything has its own fate. Andrew and Pax being destined to meet is also a good thing. Roman seemed to have thought of something as he spoke. By the way, how are things going on at the ancient tomb site? Upon hearing this, Andrew's face showed a worried expression. Not long ago, the ghost inside let out a howl. It shouldn't be long before it wakes up. However, I have figured out the origin of those 9 apertures jade. As soon as the words fell, Nicholas stood up excitedly. What exactly is going on with that thing? Upon hearing this, Andrew's eyes flickered. My subordinates. They found a stolen hole in the mountains behind the ancient tomb. There's a body inside that was probably killed by dirt. Judging from the attire, it's a tomb raider. Moreover, most likely it's a group that lost one member. The others probably fled with the accompanying burial items. Before Andrew could finish his sentence, Nicholas immediately slapped his hand angrily on the stone table. It must be like this. Damien's father's jade was sold by this group of people. Upon hearing this, hemp-clad Granny couldn't help but burst into a cackling laughter, staring at him intently. You're pretty clever when you need to be. Why don't you just hang yourself now? Granny, I'll teach you spiritual practice, ghostly Tao. This remark instantly scared Nicholas, who shook his head repeatedly. No, 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 Granny, I haven't lived enough yet. But before Nicholas could finish his sentence, hemp-clad Granny raised her hand holding a smoking pipe and waved it. As long as you die, Nicholas, my 8 handmaidens are all promised to you as wives, Granny. The next second, Nicholas was surrounded by 8 graceful red-clad female ghosts. Nicholas immediately had a foolish look on his face. This could work too. But before he could finish his sentence, hemp-clad Granny smashed a big pipe on his forehead. Nicholas yelled in pain at that moment. Granny, why did you hit me? The hemp-clad Granny, feeling irritated, smashed another pipe. Look at you, acting so foolish. Haven't you heard of a string of lies? Ghosts' words cannot be trusted. Especially those soul-snatching restless ghosts. Otherwise, you'll be close to death for real. Upon hearing this, Nicholas couldn't help but burst into tears. Looking at hemp-clad Granny with a sense of grievance, he said, If you said it yourself, how can you blame me for believing it? This remark immediately made everyone burst into laughter. And what hemp-clad Granny said proved to be true. She ended up saving him later on. At that moment, Asher suddenly appeared in the yard with Faye by his side. I apologize for not requesting Pax's permission before they arrived. Seeing the anxious appearance of the two, Pax was puzzled. Is there something urgent that the patriarch needs to inform me? Asher, however, had a serious expression. He respectfully bowed to Pax. Pax, my ancestor asked me to deliver a message to you. Do not let the fierce deities sleeping in the ancient tomb wake up at any cost. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. Let's rely on our own abilities and hemp-clad Granny's skills. We simply can't deal with that guy." Pax was suddenly shocked and turned pale at the mention of it. "What? It's actually so difficult to deal with." Nicholas is also more worried about his father's safety. He quickly implores all the immortals to think of a solution. Otherwise, that worship of evil will definitely be the first to kill my dad. But hemp-clad Granny seemed somewhat hesitant. "It's not that we don't want to help you. It's just that the ghost is too fierce. We are not confident either. If not, let your father commit suicide first. I will hide his soul in the mountains. It's better than being frightened to death by that fierce deity." Upon hearing this, Nicholas couldn't help but step back in fear. "Granny, you just asked me to commit suicide and follow you to practice ghostly Tao. Now you are asking my dad to commit suicide to bury his soul. Doesn't this mean that my family is about to be wiped out?" Seeing this situation, Pax quickly stepped forward to comfort. "Nicholas, rest assured that I will definitely help you." Nicholas, however, had a look of disbelief on his face, doubting Pax's ability. "Don't joke around. Right now, you can't even draw a talisman. How can you help me?" Upon hearing Nicholas mocking Pax, Andrew, who was standing next to them, couldn't sit still. "Who said he doesn't have this ability? If he wants to help you deal with that evil spirit, even if it costs him his life, I, Andrew, will definitely be the first one to step forward." Upon hearing Andrew's words, hemp-clad Granny did feel a bit unconvinced. "He is my grandson, so if anyone is going to step up, it will be me first." And at this moment, Roman appears to be the calmest. To deal with the worship of evil in the ancient tomb, you have to invite Logan or Pine Grandpa. Upon hearing this, Asher couldn't help but show a troubled expression as he stroked his beard. "My ancestor has been out of touch with the world for a long time. If it weren't for our close relationship with the ancestors of the Pax family, they wouldn't have sent us a message." As soon as these words were spoken, Pax was instantly filled with excitement. "Does your ancestor know about my background?" Asher nodded slightly. "Ancestor anticipated that you would ask him," the old man. "Let me tell you not to be impatient. Everything will be resolved in due time." Upon hearing this, Pax felt even more despondent. "Please thank your ancestor on my behalf." And now, Logan cannot leave the mountain. Everyone turned their gaze to the large pine tree behind them. Nicholas also understood in his heart. He immediately ran to the front of the large pine tree and knelt down with a thud. "Please be compassionate and merciful. Can you save my father?" But the pine tree did not respond. Nicholas could only continue to kowtow incessantly. Each kowtow was done with great force. However, the pine tree still did not respond. Seeing this, Pax felt extremely heartbroken. He then walked up to the front of the pine tree. He sincerely knelt on the ground and begged Grandpa Pine for mercy. After saying that, he and Nicholas kowtowed towards the big pine tree together. After kowtowing for 2.5 minutes like this, the pine tree, however, remained completely still. Hemp-clad Granny and Andrew both felt sorry for them. They immediately stepped forward to help the two men up, but were stopped by Roman. "Don't go. Only sincerity can move Pine Grandpa." After knocking their heads countless times, a simple and ancient sigh finally echoed in everyone's ears. "I can guarantee his safety in his lifetime as long as he doesn't leave this courtyard." Pine Grandpa's promise to Nicholas instantly filled him with great joy. He kowtowed 3 times more forcefully. "Thank you, Grandpa. I'll go tell my dad the good news right away." He then got up and ran towards the side room where the Gabriels lived. "I have good news for you," Dad said. "Your life is spared." Upon hearing the noise, Gabriel, with an angry look on his face, opened the door. "What are you yelling about in the middle of the night, boy? I think you're up to no good again, aren't you?" But before Gabriel could finish scolding, Nicholas told him what Pine Grandpa had said. Gabriel was overjoyed as soon as he heard it. He immediately prepared to bring over tens of tons of fertilizer to express his gratitude to Grandpa Pine, but was stopped by Nicholas. "You can't leave the yard," Grandpa Pine said. Hearing this, Gabriel looked at Nicholas, the nephew of Grandpa Pax, with some skepticism and asked, "Is this true? How long do I have to stay here?" Pax was momentarily stumped by the question. Pine Grandpa also didn't mention how long. He didn't know how to respond for a moment. And at this moment, Nicholas chuckled carelessly. "Dad should wait for the stuff in the ancient tomb to perish. Then you can get out. But it will still be at least 1,800 years, if not more." When Gabriel heard his son teasing him like this, he was immediately furious. "I think you are just asking for a beating." He then gave Nicholas a big slap. But after he finished, he looked at Pax with a worried face, wondering if he could come up with another solution. "I don't want to just drift through life waiting to die." This undoubtedly put Pax in a difficult position. After some contemplation, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration, as if he had thought of something. "I know, there is one more person who can deal with the evil spirit in the ancient tomb. However, he has not been seen for many years. I don't know if we can find him." As soon as he finished speaking, him-clad Granny and the others also walked over. "Are you talking about the Snow Corpse General?" Pax nodded excitedly. "Is it true that Uncle Wyatt can defeat the worship of evil in the ancient tomb?" Upon hearing this, Roman's expression turned serious. Snow Corpse General is the mountain god personally sealed by the Emperor. But the worship of evil in that ancient tomb also uses a fierce god that requires the sacrifice of tens of thousands of people. Which one of them is stronger, and which one is weaker? I'm afraid we won't know until they actually start fighting. Upon hearing Roman's analysis, the father and son, Gabriel and Nicholas, couldn't help but hang their heads in disappointment. "I see. In that case, let's not bother Snow Corpse General. We cannot let others take risks for our own sake. It would be too unethical." After Gabriel finished speaking, Nicholas instinctively touched his own butt. Seeing this, Andrew suddenly burst into laughter. "Gabriel doesn't need to be discouraged. As long as we can get the Snow Corpse General to come out of hiding, with the support of our 5 immortals and him-clad Granny, we will definitely be able to kill the ferocious deity in the ancient tomb." This statement undoubtedly refers to the two of them, father and son. They have confidence now. That would be great if it's the case. Upon hearing this, Roman also expressed admiration with a fist salute. "Since Andrew is so bold, I am willing to accompany him even at the cost of my life." Upon hearing these words, Pax became confident. "In that case, let's set off now to find Uncle Wyatt." After saying that, he led the group towards the general temple deep in the mountains. However, after just a short while of climbing the mountain, the obese Gabriel was exhausted, his face pale, and covered in sweat. "How much farther is it? I can't go on much longer." Upon hearing this, Pax just awkwardly turned to look at him. General Temple is located at the deepest part of the snow-capped mountain. It's estimated that it will take at least 2.5 days to get there. However, before Pax could finish speaking, Gabriel was suddenly frightened, as if his body had been emptied and he fell backward. Fortunately, Nicholas behind him caught him in time. Otherwise, he would have rolled down the mountain directly. Then he looked up and let out a long sigh. "It's unbelievable that it still takes so long to wait for the return this time. I will definitely have someone come to fix the road after I go back." Upon hearing this, Roman praised him endlessly. Repairing bridges and mending roads is a great act of kindness. But at this point, Nicholas was clearly struggling. "Who can come help me? I need to make sure my dad gets back alive before I can do good deeds." Seeing this, Roman immediately snapped his fingers. A faint blue energy shot out instantly from between his index fingers. Immediately after, a green light beam quickly flew over from a distance. When his figure appeared, Eighth Master looked at Roman with a puzzled face and asked, "Why did you call for me?" But Roman just pointed to Gabriel beside him. "You go carry him. Follow us to the General Temple." Upon hearing this, Eighth Master instantly showed an unwilling expression and was about to speak out in opposition. He was stopped by a cold glance from Roman, so he swallowed his words back in fear. "Brother, don't look at me like that. I'm just joking." As he spoke, he used a hand seal to transform back to his original form. Suddenly, a 99-meter-long giant python appeared in the open space. Gabriel climbed cautiously onto Eighth Master's body. Sure enough, the speed at which everyone was moving forward increased significantly. At the time when the sun was about to rise, they finally arrived at the General Temple. But it looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. Not only were there cobwebs everywhere, even the statue of Snow Corpse General was in ruins. It seemed like it would crumble at a light touch. So, Pax and the others tidied up the place a bit. He knelt before the statue with his hands clasped together and called out, "Uncle, I have come this time to ask for your help." Then Pax recounted everything that had happened in the ancient tomb. But after a long time had passed, there was still no response from the statue of the Snow Corpse General. Seeing this, Andrew couldn't help but sigh. It seems that the Snow Corpse General is not here. Pax also looked puzzled. In theory, Uncle Wyatt wouldn't have left Seal the Spirit for long. Could something have happened? Gabriel's newly ignited hope was instantly extinguished in this moment, leaving him deeply disappointed. Forget it, maybe I'm not lucky enough. He knelt down with a thud as he spoke. "General, I'm sorry to disturb you this time. You are Pax's uncle, so we are considered relatives. I will send someone to clean up here when I go back. Let's keep in touch often." At this moment, the Snow Corpse General is indeed not in his fief. He is currently heading towards the capital city of the underworld. He is planning to cause chaos in the underworld and take away someone's soul. And Gabriel is a man of his word. Not only did he have the General Temple rebuilt upon his return, he also had the asphalt road extended all the way to the gate. The convenient transportation has led villagers to come to pay their respects one after another, making the incense at General Temple unprecedentedly prosperous. That invisibly saved Snow Corpse General's life. But that's a story for another time. At this time, Gabriel was obviously very worried. He didn't know how much longer he could live. Seeing this, Pax comforted with a smile. "Don't worry. I will definitely think of a way to help you solve this." Upon hearing this, Gabriel's originally lifeless face improved slightly. "Pax, I'll rely on you," he said. In the blink of an eye, it was time to return to school. On the school playground that day, suddenly, a strange person appeared. The students were scared out of their wits. Only heard this person's mouth keep calling Pax's name. Dingqin took a look and realized it was Damien, who at this moment had a sallow face as if it had been drained. In just a few days, he transformed from a 200-pound fat guy. He is now so skinny that only skin covering bones is left. Like a skeleton, he wanders aimlessly in the school playground. Seeing Pax, he was overjoyed in an instant. It was like seeing a savior. "I was wrong, I was really wrong. Please forgive me." Upon hearing this, Pax and Nicholas were puzzled. Upon closer inspection, they realized that the person was Damien. Nicholas couldn't help but joke.